Maxton Hall is perfect. So I was scrolling on TikTok as one does, and I came across heaps of TikToks about this TV show called Maxton Hall, and I was kind of like, oh, it's just one of those Wattpad things. I didn't really expect much of it, and I honestly was just expecting like one of those cringy things, kind of like either Culpa Mia, After, or My Life with the Walter Boys, which honestly, My Life with the Walter Boys is so bad. But I decided to watch it anyway, and I watched it in one sitting. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm so obsessed with the show and with the actors and just with the whole universe. I don't know. As soon as I finished watching it, I actually typed up the book and I was like, I'm gonna read the book, but it's not translated into English yet. I do think because it's doing so well, it will be. So the series is called Maxton Hall, which is the name of the school that the TV show takes place, and it is a German book series written by Mona Karsten, and book one is called Save Me. So there are 6 episodes in total. Each episode is about 45 minutes long. Knowing that it was just such a short amount of time, I didn't think they would have enough time to make it a good show. I thought it would be rushed. I thought the relationship would be either not enough time or it would be like really like insta-lovey. It wasn't, okay? I was pleasantly surprised. I haven't been able to watch like a TV show or a movie in ages ever since I got into reading. I just find them boring. I get distracted. I just am not interested in them. But this was the exception. I thought it was done so well. I think everything about it was perfect. The actors have amazing chemistry. The camera work and like cinematography, amazing. I don't know exactly the words, but the like color like on the film was just really done. The angles, really well done, amazing. And the music and the background music was so good. Most of the songs were songs that I haven't heard of or they were made for the show, but the songs that you probably do know of was Where's My Love by Simmel, which was such a perfect song. I already love that song, so having that in the show obviously won me over. Moth to a Flame obviously is a good song, but with the scene and kind of like the moment in the TV show that it was in, which I'll talk about more in depth, I thought that it was perfect. And then the other popular song is I Found, which is like I found love where it wasn't supposed to be, that one. All the other ones are really good as well. There was a song called The Love I Give. I don't know if that's been about for very long, but I really liked that one. I liked Acoustic and I like Let Down. So I think all those songs were mostly made for the actual TV show, but if you type up Maxton Hall on Spotify, there's a whole playlist and it's really good, the music. So that was another thing that I think really contributed to me being like obsessed with the TV show. I listened to it in English, like dubbed, and I actually don't think it was that obvious. Like usually when I watch something dubbed, I get taken out because I'm looking at their lips and I'm just like, ugh, it's not working, but I thought it was really well done. They do actually speak English in real life and they're quite fluent. It starts off with James Beaufort and his sister, I forgot the sister's name, and she comes to him crying and she is like, this girl walked in on me and my teacher hooking up, and he's like, oh shit, because if their dad finds out about this, or like the press does, they're going to be in big trouble. Their whole entire name will be tarnished. It's like a big deal. And he's like, who did it? And she's like, Ruby Bell. And he's like, who the hell is that?
And who is this Ruby Bell?
Ruby Bell is this girl that goes to Maxton Hall. She's on a scholarship. She doesn't have heaps of money. Her family aren't well off. She's really smart because she obviously has a scholarship. And she walked in on the girl snogging her teacher. Basically, he's like, I'm going to go up to Ruby Bell and I'm going to set her straight. So he goes up to her and he basically has heaps of money and he's like, I'll give you this money if you keep your mouth shut. And she's like taken aback. She thinks it's really disrespectful because it is. At the same time, I was kind of like, girl, take the money. But she doesn't take the money. She hands it over to him, or actually she drops it. And she's like, fuck off. She's mad. That's the start of their animosity towards each other. And I really, really enjoyed it. So at that scene, I was kind of like, I was a bit iffy. I was like, it's a little bit cringy so far. And I do think in the scene where he comes up and he's like trying to talk to her, he looks a bit weird, which I don't know, maybe that was purposeful because I feel like further on into the series he gets more attractive. That could be because of the actions he does, but I do think maybe they tried to make him look a little bit more physically attractive with like the camera angles and like his expressions and stuff. Who knows? And then later on in the day, he finds her and he's basically like, what do you want? I'll give you anything. I just need you to keep quiet. He doesn't say it in like a nice way. And then he randomly propositions himself and she's like, what the hell are you doing? It was a bit weird, not gonna lie, but I do think it was a good scene. I like having multiple scenes of like them being angry towards each other. I don't like a rushed enemies to lovers, so that was just like a crucial scene to, you know, add a little bit more longevity towards the hatred part. And she's basically like, I want a restraining order because you're annoying me, and it's kind of a bit of banter, but at the same time they hate each other, so it's like, I'm gonna say it's banter, but it's really just like fuck off. So that's that. And then it cuts to James playing lacrosse. Basically he's running down the middle of the field, he's about to get a goal when he notices Ruby Bell on the sidelines talking to his teammate because the teammate got kicked off. The teammate's like his best friend, and he's looking there and he fails the shot and he trips over and he gets distracted because of Ruby Bell. And that was one of the scenes that made me go feral, because I like showing and not telling. I think as many scenes as possible with the main love interests is crucial, and I think that is one of the main things they did right in this series. There was heaps of scenes with the characters and heaps of like glances and stuff like that. He was looking, one, because she was handshaking his friend, but I'm interpreting it as he was like jealous that she was shaking the guy's hand and he was kind of like noticing her. He already cares enough to look at her and like notice her, you know what I mean? After the game they bump into each other and he says to her, word for word, someone like you can't touch people like us because you're a nobody from some backwater hovel. And that is really mean. I don't really like bully romances. I do think that was like a little bit like too far, I suppose, but it's enemies to lovers, you gotta have the depth, okay? And I do think knowing that his character does develop kind of makes it not as bad, because I feel like there's some romances where the guy's just a dick. For example, Harden, I haven't watched the whole thing, I just know he's a dick. Another example is My Life with the Walter Boys. Even though the Cole guy does a couple things nice, I don't think he was all the way nice to the main character. He still did bad things near the end. He still didn't change up his whole vibe. He was still moaning and groaning. This guy, you could say he does, but I do think he was really attentive to the main character, especially in episode 3, which we'll get to. So then after that scene, there's a welcome party for the school. Ruby's like really wanting to make it perfect, because if she doesn't, then she won't get this letter from this guy. I don't know his name. I don't know if he's like the principal or whatever, but she needs this recommendation letter from him for Oxford University. That's going on. She needs this party to be perfect. All of a sudden, the lights change, the music changes, and there's strippers. And I know that sounds so random and out of pocket, but that's what happens. James Beaufort paid off the DJ and he organised strippers to ruin the party. The principal guy gets really mad. He gets both of them into the office. He basically says, James, you are kicked off the lacrosse team, and he says to Ruby that she's not getting the letter from him anymore. He also says that James has to join her organisation committee thing for like events and stuff, and he has to help plan this upcoming event, which is like this gala. He's like mad about that. And then at the end, the principal guy is basically like, is there anything else I should know? James looks at Ruby and he's expecting her to blab about the sister and teacher incident, but she doesn't. And he kind of looks at her like, maybe she isn't that bad. And I feel like that, once again, was a really good scene, because it's just the small things. You don't have to say it outright, and I just think subtle glances and expressions can really say a lot. That was the end of episode 1. At the start of episode 2, he is playing lacrosse. He is back on the team and he's like, haha, I'm not gonna listen to this. The guy who is the coach basically says, your dad kicked you off the team, like it's not even the principal, like you actually can't play. So then James goes to the organisation committee and he suggests they do a Victorian themed party for like the gala. Everyone is like, yeah, that's a really good idea, and Ruby is kind of like, you know, it's a bit of banter, and I really do like that scene. You gotta love some banter, and I think that scene really sets the difference between them being mean to each other and them being like a little bit of banter. So then after that scene, Ruby's like, we need to get some like old style Victorian dresses for like a poster so they can kind of like get people to know what to wear. So she goes back to James and she's basically like, your family has heaps of old style dresses, because his family's like has like a legacy. I honestly don't know. And he's he's like, yeah, I'm not giving you to them, and he fucks off. He's not going to give her the dresses. So Ruby thinks, who can I get to make me a dress? And her sister sews and does all that. Her sister sews her a dress. It's going really well. She sends a picture to the group chat of the organisation committee. On the message it says, the gown for our poster is taking shape here. Big thanks to James. Not. And I feel like that was like a little bit of like banter. He looks at it, he smiles, and then he messages, after I provided the idea, I'm happy that the committee also contributed something. Yes, what's the name of your seamstress? She is doing a good job, though the sewing machine looks like it's from a dumpster. And she's like, you disgusting, arrogant asshole. I feel like it wasn't too mean. It was just like a little jab. I know it's like a bit icky, but it has to be done. And I think it was done well. Then they're in class. James and Ruby get into an argument. I think they were talking about like rationale and stuff. And he's basically like, it's rational to choose a high paying job that you don't enjoy because, you know, you need money to live, whatever. And then she is like, you only care about money and no one cares about you because all they care about is your money. And then he storms off. And she's like, oh shit, that was really mean. You kind of see deeper into his emotions and you kind of like, oh wait, maybe he isn't just an arrogant, rich little bitch. Ruby's kind of like, oh shit, she feels really bad. So then later that day, she walks onto the oval soccer pitch. I don't know. He's doing a little Russian twists workout and she's basically like, I'm really sorry. It's really cute how that scene happens. I really like the lighting. It's like kind of getting a bit dark. That's like the start of like the friendly banter. And then especially in that scene, he looks at her and the way that the shot was happening, it was like perfect. She puts the rude finger up at him. That was like the biggest scene that was like banter, and also like it switched over from like enemies to like friendly banter with like, you know, their friends. Then it cuts to him drawing her from memory. Such a good scene, amazing. Wattpad girlies were like on the floor. I had to pause it and like reassess. James and Ruby are messaging. He basically says, I have access to the archive and they can go see some gowns in London. And she's like messaging him, she's smiling, and then at the end of their messages they send like their initials and they're both like trying to guess what each other's middle name is. It's really cute. I loved that as well. That was the end of episode 2. And then at the start of episode 3 they go to this archive, kind of like a museum thing. While they're in the car, he's drawing something. She sees his drawing. He's really good at drawing. It's not of her, it's a different thing, and she kind of looks at it and kind of smiles. There's also a bit of banter in the car, and I think they talk about him having sex on a waterbed. I liked that.
Some burst waterbeds during sex?
It wasn't a waterbed.
I like it when it's kind of like a little bit of a sexual joke and it makes it a little bit more tension. So I really like that. They walk into this museum. She's looking around and he's looking at her. Stuff like that is what I love about reading, because, you know, you read the male point of view and you're kind of like, oh, I wonder what he's thinking. And then you can actually read it. But then in TV shows, you can't do that. But I think that is what I like about this TV show. You can kind of picture what he's thinking because of the camera work and just the way everything's done. So then he's basically like, you should try on this gown. It looks really pretty. She tries on the gown, looks stunning in it, looks beautiful, it's amazing. The song Where's My Love comes on. He's looking at her with the dress on. He has his own like old time suit on, and they're just having fun with like the costumes. Then his freaking dad walks in and he's basically being really rude.
But it's inappropriate, James, that you involved this poor girl. As for this dress, I think you may have worn it for long enough, and it's probably a bit tight to the bust.
James doesn't say anything, which James, that pissed me off because, you know, you obviously want him to stick up for her, but it was a part of like the whole character development. You can see in the camera work he doesn't enjoy what his dad's doing, his facial expressions, but he can't stick up to him yet because that's just not where his character's at. She runs off, she's sad. She thought James would stick up for her. She's hurt, you know, thought they were kind of getting friendly. She walks into school the next day and there's a big poster of her and James up in the school. Now everyone's like paying attention to her because she's with this James guy. He's really popular and she's kind of embarrassed. She goes up to him and she's like really mad and she's like, why would you do that? And he's like, I thought that would make you feel better. I thought you looked really pretty in the dress. I loved that part. Then she's basically like, I want to go back to how we were before. And he's like really sad and, you know, it has to be more conflict.
You look awesome in that photo, you know.
I'm doing everything I can not to stand out, but it's okay to plaster my face all over Maxton Hall, is it? I think I'd prefer if we went back to how we were.
So before, yeah?
The actual character who plays in this show, Damien or something, he actually said like there's 6 episodes, there can't just be them in love the whole time or it's going to get boring. This had to be a part of the thing. After that, he comes to her house. He has an apology. It's a really good apology. I actually think it was really well done. You can see where he's coming from.
If I had the posters printed to show you that I'm not that someone who treats people like like dirt. You're much too special to be kept here hidden away from everyone. What if I don't want to go back to how things were? You're not invisible anymore. Not for me.
She gets inside, she's kind of like thinking. Her sister walks in with a big garment kind of bag thing, and it's a gift from James, and it's the dress that she tried on. I forgot what the letter said, but it said something like, this dress was made for you.
This dress was made for you, just 200 years too early. Wear it to the fundraising gala. You look too beautiful in it not to.
They're back to being civil. And then during his like little apology at her house, he also invited her to this party tonight. She walks in, the song like starts dropping or whatever. It is Moth to the Flame by The Weeknd, an amazing song. He looks at her, the lighting, everything about the scene was amazing. I love it. It's like you could read what was going on inside his head, and that is what I loved about the show. And just the way he looks at her, once he starts falling for her, it's amazing. I don't know if she fell first, but he fell harder. Either way, whatever it was, he fell harder. And I just love it. It's like, touch her and you die. So it switches over from Moth to the Flame, because they're kind of doing a bit of like dancing. That's when it reminds me of Elena and Damon. Song changes, The Love I Give. Really good song. I've never heard it before, but it was a really good song for the scene. Do this like little spin thing. They're holding hands. It's so intimate and amazing. This freaking girl comes past his dad's trying to set James up with. She drops the drink on Ruby. Instead of getting too mad about it, she's like, says something, and then he's like, let's go, Ruby.
Perfect timing. It was getting hot.
Yeah, Ruby, let's go.
I love that scene. It kind of just shows that he doesn't care about anyone else except this Ruby girl. They go outside and he's basically like, I need to grab my jacket. Then his friend freaking grabs Ruby as like a joke and he chucks her in the pool and everyone's laughing and I'm like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? So that was a bit like, what the fuck? But it's an amazing scene because the reason why that was a bad thing was because as soon as she comes outside, she looks at the pool and she gets anxiety. The reason is because she got in an accident with her dad. They were on a boat. She dropped a teddy bear, had to jump in and get it, and then her dad jumped in to save her because she can't swim. A boat came and he basically can't walk anymore, and she has like survivor's guilt because she's fine and like it's her fault. It's like a whole trauma thing. It gives her character depth, and I just think it was really well done. Throughout the whole series, she kind of has like mini panic attacks is what I'm kind of assuming them as, and the way it kind of flashes to things and like the sounds and stuff, it's like kind of like a heartbeat. You can hear them breathing. It happens to multiple characters. Really well done. So basically she gets thrown in the pool. She's freaking out. James is looking at her. It gives like a zoom of him and he's like, something's wrong, she's not coming up. He jumps in and he gets her and he's basically like, it's okay, like I'm here now, just deep breaths, whatever. Oh, my heart melted.
Hey, all good. All good. All good. All good. It's okay. I've got you now. It's okay.
He pulls her out of the water, he carries her out, he gives like a death stare to the guy who threw her in. Oh, I freaking loved it. I loved it so much. They go outside to the car, the butler guy's there and he's like, get me a blanket. He puts his hoodie on Ruby. Oh, it was so amazing. I loved it so much. They get in the car and they're driving her home and she opens up about the story and she tells him about it. I loved it so much. Like the way she was just opening up about it, it was amazing. She's basically like, it's my fault and stuff, and he's like, no, it's not. And then just the way it was filmed was amazing. As soon as she's kind of like, it's my fault, he's like, no, and then she falls onto his lap.
It's my fault that he's in a wheelchair.
He kisses her hair, he's holding her, his face is just anguished and it's freaking amazing. This is the part in the show that I was like going feral. That was the end of episode 3. Episode 4, she wakes up to a steamy dream of her and him kissing, and then it kind of turns into a nightmare. Anyway, she wakes up and she's like smelling the jumper that he gave her, and you know, she's getting a bit giddy, and it's kind of like a turning point. She's falling for him, he's already fell for her, I think. Like, I'm just gonna assume. They're messaging each other on the way to school, and she says something like, I'm nervous to go to school because everyone was filming her falling in the pool, and he's like reassuring her, and he's like, everyone was just staring at my wet back, and then she says, at least I had a good view or something like that, and he's like, you were flirting. She gets off the bus and he's waiting for her. I actually loved that so much. He was waiting for her at the bus. Once again, I'm obsessed. They're walking into school, everyone's like laughing at her, like, I'm sorry, who the fuck is laughing? Like, it's really not that funny. He kind of cheers her up.
Is that the Ruby Bell
hell? She is so relaxed and unaffected. I heard James Beaufort carried her in his arms. What a lucky lady.
Stop it.
And she's laughing. He's looking at her like a son, like she is made to make him happy. Oh, it's amazing. I love it. And then later on, he finds out that it's her birthday, so he organizes a little birthday present off screen. She opens it. She gets this satchel with her initials on it. Earlier on in the series, her backpack was like all ripped and like it ripped in front of him, and he gives her this satchel. It's really nice, really cute. And then inside it, there's the drawing of him that he drew, and she's all giddy. She loves it. Stuff like that is what I love. Then he ditches this meeting kind of thing that he had to do with his father, and he goes to the gala where Ruby is in her gown that he bought her, and he's looking at her once again just so lovingly. It's amazing. It's the part where they're down bad for each other, and the way I'm explaining this is really rushed, but there was heaps of dialogue before this. It didn't feel rushed. It felt natural. She basically says that she talked to the principal guy and she got him back on the lacrosse team. He's really happy. He says her like full name.
Ruby. Jemima. Bell.
They're about to kiss, and then the power goes out. They go to check it out, they turn it back on, and they start making out, and it's amazing. The song, the music builds, and then they're kissing. It's amazing. It's like a lot of tension. It's a really good make-out scene. And then his dad shows up, and he's ruins the fucking fun. James and his dad are back at his house, and the dad's basically like talking shit about Ruby, saying that she's a gold digger, saying that she's like doesn't have a life, and all she has is just her dad that she has to care for because he's in a wheelchair. James is like, don't you talk about her like that, and it's once again really, really good. And then the dad basically kind of blackmails him, and he's like, if you stay with her, I'm gonna ruin her life, and I have connections. He really like makes him believe it. It's honestly really cruel, and I was kind of like, wait, shit, what can he do?
You will never speak to this girl again. You see, one call is enough, and that would see the end of her bursary. That her family will soon have to depend on getting subsidized housing, and that Oxford no longer considers her a good student.
So James has to get rid of Ruby. That's the whole thing. James is sad. There's a close-up of his face. The dad's a freaking dickhead. And I was like, oh my god, what's going to happen? In the next episode, Ruby's walking down the corridor and she sees James and she's smiling. She's like about to say hi. He walks straight past her. No eye contact. Crazy, okay? I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh no. I wasn't too worried because I was like, it's a romance. I do think, even though I love them together, I do think this added something. I think it added drama, intrigue. It made me want to keep watching. And he was like really sad because like he couldn't be with her, so I love that as well. She then decides to walk up to him at his lacrosse practice. She's basically like, what's going on? He has a punch on his face from his dad, and she's like, did he do that to you?
Did your father do that? Did he do this?
She's tearing up. You can just see in his face that he's dying inside and he just wants to hug her. And I don't know exactly what he says, but he says something kind of mean. And
Did you actually start to believe someone like me would be interested in a girl like you, huh?
and she's crying, and then she walks off, and that's the end of their relationship. He gets drunk that night and he stumbles into home. He can't cope without Ruby. It's amazing. I love it. They both get their letters that they got accepted to Oxford. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. They get to do like an orientation kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. They both rock up there. Ruby meets this guy at the bus. I don't know what his name was, but he was freaking annoying. Like at the start I was kind of like, oh, love triangle, but then I was like, you know what, I don't like this guy. He's kind of giving me the ick. He was just there as like a bit of a jealousy kind of thing. She gets to her dorm and she turns around and she sees James at the opposite end of the dorm. I was so happy. I was like, yes. And then they're in their little class, I don't know, seminar. They're getting information. She gets called in to do like a bit of a interview with one of the professors. I don't freaking know. I got no clue about what's going on like with college stuff, but all I know is she's doing like an interview, and she walks up the stairs past James and he grabs her hand in like the gentlest way possible. It was amazing. You actually can't make this any better. He says good luck and she's like, and she walks off and she's looking at her hand like she doesn't want to wash it, and it's amazing once again. Then she walks into the bar with that stupid guy she met and her friend, and she sees James, and then he sees her, and he keeps looking back because he's a bit jealous because she's with that guy. I love stuff like this. This is what I love about the show: the jealousy, the glances, the camera work. They both can't get to sleep, and they're both like about to like open each other's doors and like look at each other. Tension is through the roof, and it's just building and building and building building, he looks just so anguished, and it's once again amazing. I love it. So in the next little seminar thing, James walks in and he's about to sit next to Ruby when the guy that she met at the bus steals the seat, and he's like, oh sorry, did I steal this seat? And then James is like, oh it's fine. And I just thought it was really cute that he was about to sit next to her, and then it was a bit sad. But anyway, they're doing a little bit of a Q&A thing, and then him and Ruby got in an argument. She says something about you're acting like your father, or you're saying something that your father would say.
What's your problem?
I just think how scary it is. How little time it's taken for you to sound like him.
Like who?
Your father.
And obviously that was like a really low blow. His face, like the actor has these really sad faces, and she kind of realizes like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. So she runs off. He runs after her. They're at the stairs, they're arguing.
I do unforgivable things, lying and hiding what I really feel, but you can't judge me for that because I do all of it for you.
Try just talking to me instead of all these stupid riddles. You make me feel like I've lost it.
You've already made me lose it. Do you have any idea what it's doing to me, how it feels to sit near to you, to keep hearing your voice every day, do you?
You don't know what you want from me. Or what you want from anybody, because you know shit!
I know exactly what I want.
Then put up a fight for it.
All my life, nobody's been interested in what I want.
Not true. I'm more than interested in what you want.
And she's like, what do you want? Like, it's like an amazing finale kind of like love confession scene. And then he walks up and she's like ahead of him. He's like, I know what I want. Basically they end up kissing. She kind of does a little bit of a turn, and then he pulls her in and they kiss. Oh, amazing. The tension through the roof. So they're kissing, they're about to do the deed, and then she kind of gets a bit of cold feet for a second, and he's like, he stops immediately. A gentleman, like, obviously bare minimum, but still it was good.
Ruby, what's the matter?
He'd been able to destroy you, he told me. Maybe promise to end it. I knew I couldn't protect you from him.
So maybe you should have said that.
And he's basically like, what's the matter? And she basically says like, what happened? Like, why did you ignore me? Like, what was happening? He explains everything, and she's like, you have to communicate with me next time. And then she like gets on top of him, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm doing what people that trust each other do together, and they do the deed. Okay, it's really intimate. I really enjoyed it. Like, obviously, like stuff like that, you might be like, what do you mean you enjoyed it? I'm like, it was intimate. Okay, it was intimate, and I really enjoyed it. Then after they do the deed, they're laughing, so cute, and they're writing a list. I honestly forgot what it was for, but I think it was like things that he needs to focus on or something, or things that are important to him. And at the end he writes the most important thing, and it's Ruby.
The most important thing.
The reason why I like this so much is because I'm living vicariously through these characters. If I don't get something like this, I am not getting any crusty men. Like, I need something. I need James Beaufort, okay? Not gonna happen, but whatever. Anyway, they're in their little honeymoon stage. They're kissing, they're going on walks, they're saying goodbye because she has to go on the bus to go home. Everything's happy and dandy until he gets home and his dad is like, I have to tell you something. James Beaufort's mum had a stroke.
Your mother has suffered a stroke. Cordelia's dead.
And she's dead. Obviously, I didn't explain heaps about the mum, but there wasn't too much scenes with the mum, so it didn't pay off too much. But because the actor's really good at acting, and you can just see how sad he is, and the mum was the only one that really cared for him. The dad is like evil and just a dickhead. You can just see that he's really sad, and he felt like she was the only one who actually cared, if at all, you know what I mean? He goes to Ruby's house. He sees her in the window, and her family's really happy because the dad just got this wheelchair lift that they've been saving up for, and he's looking through the window, and he's like, he doesn't want to ruin her peace, so he walks off, and Ruby kind of looks at the window and he's not there anymore, and she's kind of like, And then the show ends, and that is the end of episode 6. Apparently it took them like 3.5 months to film, so maybe we won't have to wait too long for the next season. But that was the end of that season, and I was like, what the hell, now I have to wait like at least a year. So that's why I filmed this video, because I was about to talk about the thing. The main things I liked about the show were the dialogue, the sound choice, the camera work, the way the scenes were like done. There were long silences, but it really worked because you could see their facial expressions. The actors have amazing chemistry. Overall, I think it was really well done. I really want to read the book. I don't speak German though, so like, why couldn't I be born in Europe and like be born with multiple languages? Like I know you're not born with multiple languages, but like people in Europe, usually speak multiple languages. You get me? So I think that will get translated soonish, so I'll probably read that when that gets translated. But yeah, really enjoyed it, and I love being hyperfixed with something, but then at the same time, like, I get really into it because I'm a bit on the spectrum, so I get really into stuff and I can't stop thinking about it. So I wonder how long it will last for, but for now, enjoy this video. Some people might hate on it, but I honestly don't think I can hate on it. I think it was really well done. I think it was perfect. So that's the end of my review. Maxton Hall is perfect. Maybe not, but like, for me it is.